Um, so bridge should be kind of a point you should definitely be contesting here. Oh, I forgot to record this. Hold on. So that way you have something to look back onto. Um, so yeah, try to contest that high ground. Abuse like you don't have to like show yourself completely. Just kind of sit at the doorway. Make sure the enemy doesn't abuse that high ground. Make sure they don't come up to the area behind you. That's mainly what it's for, and also gives you a bit of scouting information. So because you didn't contest that left high ground, they're here now, right? That's what that's what you're trying to prevent. You're trying to contest this high ground so that way their tanks don't just jump up here and then can poke you all out from here. That's what you're trying to avoid by contesting that. So try to do that a little more. And then now that you kind of already know, I'm sure you heard some Widow shots, but even I think your team called out the Hanzo. If not, you're about to find out here in a couple seconds. Now that you know that their comp is dive tanks with snipers. Oh, this is such a weird comp. I don't know why we ran this. And like a strong Ana who needs line of sights in order to heal her tanks, and a Lucio for mobility. Kind of lets you know they're like the two snipers. You need to abuse line of sight, so you need to fight in areas where your Mercy and your Zen can be safe, and then safe from the two snipers, but where your team could still kind of contest the payload, to where your healers could still help you out, yada yada. So basically, behind that curve on payload, headed over here, and you know how payload turns around, is kind of where you want to fight, considering you now know both comps. You now know they have a very sniper-oriented comp, and you don't. So it should kind of already be in your head that okay, we're gonna end up fighting here. Now, geez, what happens here is kind of crazy.
I don't even remember.
You basically find everyone. So everyone went up there, and that's what happens when you don't contest that high ground. Is they could all come up there, and then they could all push you out. So all because the simple positioning of not standing where you needed to be allowed all of this to happen. This whole push happened because you as a frontline weren't contesting the space you needed to. Actually, let me go back a little here. So these boxes are good to contest. You know the S combo with Winston, right? Like the short jumps.
I actually don't know how to short jump. I won't
Okay.
lie. I don't know how to do that.
It's super easy, super easy. So, right here, when you're already thinking about how to jump to this Winston, all you got to do is hold S and jump. If you hold S and jump, you're only gonna jump at like 10 meters. If you would have done that at this exact moment, you would have landed right here, somewhere between here, this general area. But instead, you landed like way over here. So all you really gotta do is like in this exact frame, hold S, and then you would have landed exactly on top of that Winston. And then when you land on the Winston, do you know of the Winston melee combos?
Oh yeah, the melee. That I know. I will say I do forget to do that once in a while. Like it's not like reflex yet. But,
Yeah,
I do know that.
Okay, so make sure that is on. You eventually get that down to habit, and then work on S jumping. And you can even just do that in drills, just like S keep like. Don't hold S the entire time and just keep jumping like that. No, like move around the map, and then every time you jump, just press S when you jump, and that way it does like a short jump. And just practice that. Practice just pressing S at the last moment, jump, and then see if you could execute it well, and get used to how far that jump actually is. So probably could have killed the Winston a little quicker. I was gonna say it's yeah. I was gonna say it's good. It's good that you were scouting out what was going on here, but since you see that there's two on payload and you see that there's no one up here, you know that they're all probably in front of payload, or at least pushing out in front. Yeah, see that they are. So I felt like that was a little sloppy of a rotation. It was a little slow. And not only that, you could probably zap people from like right here, from where you're standing. It reaches kind of far, so don't be afraid to just spend some time like that. And if you don't reach, then just drop down. Good disengage though. Good disengage. good reaction, but that's part of the. So yeah, once you got like tagged there, you should have known that okay, they probably called me up that Winston was low right side. Um, like anytime when you're playing in a 6 deck environment, solo queue completely different. You could probably get
That's
away with
true.
this, and you could probably even stand here and then do just fine. But in a 6 deck, you got to be very careful because you are going to get called out when you're low, and you are going to get called out where you're going. So Anna probably called out that you were low right side, and that probably let the Hanzo know, okay, let me see if Winston's still there. Boom. Luckily, Hanzo missed his second shot. He stormbowed, and he missed a still Winston. So super lucky on your end. Um, but luck isn't something you should bank on. So be careful when you're in, especially when it comes to 6 deck. You might not find it to be a good advice for solo queue, but when it comes to 6 deck, you group up back at spawn. Like if your team hasn't been pushing out yet, and especially if you're frontline and you're still waiting for people to regroup, you group all the way to your healers until you're full health, and once you're full health, then you could go see you could contest space again. So just try to develop that strict discipline, that strict habit. Yeah, it's a disengage. Disengage, disengage. Okay, yeah, I was like, either you should be either dying. So I don't. Oh, you got booped. That's what happened. Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
I thought you jumped. That makes sense. So like that jump right there, I don't think that will do much at all. Maybe you could have demeched the diva, maybe, but it's mainly just you out there. So either you should be kind of like dying already, or just like jump safe to safety to where you could regroup again. It just faster regroup it overall. It's something that everyone needs to work on, no matter who you are. Like just faster regroups. So that fight was kind of lost like way earlier on. You could tell that fight was lost about that moment. And this is how long it takes for you all to like back out and regroup. So like that Mercy might have not been able to get out, but you could have gotten out earlier. But
that's true.
then you ended up staying for like a fight, and it's small, very petty. But you are the front line, and as a frontline main tank, the regroups really depend on you because you're the one that's gonna have to go back out there and start contesting for space again. So like even though your team is gonna respawn, or you're gonna respawn with your team, you're the last of that bulk to respawn, which means your team won't be able to create space until you start getting out there. So always try to like regroup really quickly by either dying or get out when you can. You may make occasional calls of like regrouping too early. That might happen. It's just a matter of knowing when it's too early, when it's not too early. And here you're kind of wasting a lot of time choosing where you want to go through. Your main tank, so you gotta like go, especially Winston, because your team was already ready to go, right? Like we just talked about, you were the last one that's gonna respawn, so your team is gonna wait on you at this moment.
Yeah, this is rough. I see. He died there, and then I was like, do I wait or do I go in? I wasn't sure to like go up there if like it was safe. I wasn't sure if we were disengaging or not.
There's two.
I was like conflicted.
And that's fine to be. Understand that like when it comes to heroes like Tracer, and especially since you have a Mercy as well. But even if you didn't have a Mercy, just heroes like Tracer, they could get back into the fight pretty quickly. They have a triple blink to get out of spawn, and then also the current map that you're on, like it's not that far from here to there. So having one down at this map on this point with this comp, it won't do too much. You could still get some serious like kills in, get some serious damage in, even win the fight. Unlikely, yeah. But like, if anything, like I'm not asking you for you to engage right onto their team, right? But I'm asking you to like start creating space, start occupying areas, and force the team. Oh my God! Please pause. Please pause. Please pause. Jesus, I was trying to do that so long. Like your whole team was up on that top right side, and when the enemy saw that, they all like put all their resources. And I remember saying like, hey, they're all top left, like we don't worry about the other door. So they all went this way. So what I mean by contesting space is even if you were to just jump onto these boxes here, not even contesting anyone, like all you're doing is the only thing you're contesting is actual space, like that's it. But you doing that would naturally just draw aggro towards you. It will just draw attention towards you. People are going to be worried about what you're doing there. People are going to be worried that you're going to dive their backline. So just you being there makes it easy for your team to get through on that top right side right now. And that's what I mean by contesting space. And all you have to do is just kind of dodge around these boxes here, and then use that for cover. Let your team push through. Once your team pushes through, if you need to, you could jump towards your team for safety. And if you're already safe, if the enemy didn't commit towards you, you could jump towards their back line, right? So that's the importance of contesting space. It draws aggro, it draws fire away from your team, and it kind of sets you up for a better position or more options to do more things. But now you have to go fight for the space, because now like that they've already kind of had a battle on the top right and you've kind of done nothing here. Now you don't contest space anymore. Now the fight's already started, so you went from providing no value to your team from the beginning of the game, or beginning of that push, through the poke phase. The engagement already happened. You weren't even there for the engagement either, so that entire beginning of the fight was done without you, and you didn't provide much value to your team. Now you are providing value, but it's a little on the later end, and you probably could have made it cleaner for your team if you engaged earlier. See, like, you're full HP the whole time, and as main tank, you should be juggling that HP. Good follow-up, though, after that. Just be a little more aggressive when it comes to... Oh my god, I can't believe you get out of those.
It happens a lot.
So yeah, just try to be a little more conscious of how important your role is as a main tank. Like, you're the one that's gonna be creating space, so you gotta contest the spaces yourself. Good jump onto the monkey here.
It's definitely weird. Like, I can tell, like, when I play in 6-stack and then I go back to solo queue, that I have such a bad solo queue mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't, like, realize it until... Obviously doing scrims, I guess that's what they're for, to, like, I guess, like, wake you up from having a solo queue mentality, but the difference is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of hard.
No, it is. That's why there's a competitive scene, right? That's why pros have fun with it. It's super competitive, and especially Overwatch is so dynamic, so many things to think about and worry about. Don't know why I didn't primal here.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Okay. Yeah, that would have been a great spot for you to primal. That's what I thought you were jumping down. I think the jump down was good, with the intention of primaling. Like,
yeah,
so.
I don't know why.
So jumping down right. Pause, please. Thank you. Jumping down like right now. If you didn't have your ult, bad mistake, because you're half HP. You're jumping in front of a bunch of enemies. You're gonna die. With ultimate, great choice, because you get to provide pressure onto their team. Hanzo's discorded, possible kill. You could have monkeyed, you could have killed them for sure. So you have the right idea up until this point. So just be sure to be ready. Like, when it comes to primals, I found it better to have it premeditated than try to react with it, right?
Right.
So, like, it's hard to, like, try to react in the middle of a fight, like trying to just primal, like, off instinct, whatever. That's a little hard. Now, if you, like, so if when you were up here and you already knew that you were half HP, you could have had it premeditated. Okay, I'm gonna jump down, I'm gonna primal when I get really low, because I'm already low. And then as you're jumping down, you're just keeping an eye on HP. You're not even, like, at this point, I wouldn't even be looking at all of this, because I know they're there. I would just be staring at this. As I push forward, as I hold left click, I'd just be looking at my HP right there. I would have at 70 HP. That's where I would have just probably pressed Q, just because I had it premeditated, right? Like, if you're expecting to get low, it's easy. So boom, right there. Even at 103, like that's still a little high, but worth it. So try to premeditate your primal rages, and mistakes like that probably wouldn't happen. That happens.
Right.
Winston's hard. Winston's a fun tank, but a little more complex. A lot of information.
It's easier to play in solo queue.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
People don't pay attention to you. It's awesome.
Yeah. Solo queue promotes a lot of bad habits.
I realize that now. It's really bad. I didn't realize how bad it was.
It happens. Jump, jump, jump. Ooh. See, a short jump would have been good there. So Lucio's, ooh, and that was me. I'm bad. Lucio's that end up booping you as Winston before you jump, you can instantly kill. Because now, if you jump on this Lucio, that Lucio has nothing they could do to get you away. They just use their boop. So a short jump there would have been really good. And a short jump because you would have landed like right here, and if you needed to, you could back off. Like if there was too much damage and too much allies to help the Lucio, you could back off. So. So your team just called. Yeah.
Did you skip it?
I just paused it. I'm at 401. Are you?
I don't know. It's like frozen. Hold on.
Well, I rewinded it now. I'm at 406, 405, 404, 403. Are you seeing the same thing?
I'm at 426.
Oh shoot! This thing's a little buggy. I'm refreshing it. Hold on, give me a second.
Okay, I'll refresh too. That says it won't be saved. I'll just wait and see what you do.
Yeah, just give me a second.
Oh, the quality looks better.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
We were synced up when we were talking about the primal part, and then we just like lost it.
Yeah, there's this site's a little buggy still. They're still working out some kinks, so it's just.
Yeah, I'm at 406 now. 407.
Yeah, that's. Oh wait, you're at 407?
Yeah, 410, 411.
What the fuck? Hold on. So are you at 421 right now?
407, 448.
What?
Let me refresh. I didn't do it when you did it.
Okay.
Alright, I'm looking at 3:59. 4 minutes, 4:01, 4:02.
Wait, 4:02? Wait. Oh, so I am looking at the timer on top. I should have said something. Yeah. So you're on the timer on the bottom.
You're looking at in-game. I'm looking at the video. I'm so sorry.
Strange coincidence. So wait, you're at 409 right now on the on the browser. Cool. Okay, that works.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry.
No, that makes sense. It happens. It happens.
Yo, Cup is up above you, monkey. He's sitting on that ledge. We need a full regroup before we re-engage. We're getting.
Oh, this game is so rough. It makes me so sad.
So like your team's calling to back up a little. Oh, actually, she got the res off. So. Or did she res? Oh, never mind.
Monkey. He's one.
Yeah, that's good. Focus the monkey. Get on that Lucio. Nice. Short jump. Oh, that short jump would have killed it. Would have secured that Lucio kill.
Can you matrix me? Okay.
She like actually disappeared there. I was like, okay, I guess I'll just go for Ana now.
Nice shield dance. Yeah, I think if you learn how to short jump, that's gonna open up so many opportunities for you as Winston. There's like a lot of little engagements that you could secure, a lot of kills you could secure with the short jump that you're not. So try to definitely work on those. I'm gonna try not to rail you so much on the short jumps anymore. So.
I thought you were gonna talk about this part. Never mind.
Well, this one was also a little.
Yeah. Yikes.
Well, hold on. So.
I accomplished nothing with that. I literally was just like inting, and then I realized I was inting, and I was like, okay, time to go. It was rough.
Yeah, because the fight was already lost for the enemies, and yeah, not needed. Start scouting for your team. So I think you kind of baited your DPS there. I think you went in, and then your DPS decided to go in, but then they didn't realize you went out.
Oh my god.
I'm assuming that's what happened. So if you're gonna go in like that, and you notice your DPS follows up with you, yeah, they did. Try to go back in.
You're right. Oh, that's so rough. I feel so bad. I was so tempted. I won't lie to you. I was so tempted.
Hey, now you know. Now you know that it's not really your gameplay that needs work. It's your mindset. So just try not to get easily tilted. So now that accuracy in that jump was a little wonky.
Yeah, that was bad.
Again, practicing the short jumps would probably help. Hey, Bibbs. Yeah, I really think once you polish your jumps,
Okay, Widow's still in the back.
the rest of your play will flow a lot smoother. Because right now what I'm seeing is, one, you're not taking a lot of opportunities because you don't know the jump mechanics, and two, you're missing a lot of opportunities because you don't know the jump mechanics. So just trying to get familiar with those jump mechanics, I think, will probably do wonders for you.
What are you on? What are you on?
Get that
I'm on the
Lucio.
diva. I'm on the diva.
Here, Widow's half.
Just get low.
Stick to his target. You gotta stick on that Lucio. Stick on that Lucio.
Guys, get it on the Winston.
And Winston now that he's low, yeah.
Diva Discord.
Stick on that Lucio.
Lucio. Lucio down.
What? Did you know that was gonna happen? I would have freaked out. I would have jumped out.
I was fine. I was fine. I knew I was fine.
Jesus. That's insane. That made me that made my stomach drop a little.
Diva Discord.
Lucio. Lucio down.
Gosh, that's so crazy. I don't know how you predicted that.
Diva, Diva.
Everyone on the diva.
Trying to.
Oh,
Oh.
okay, I got 3 snipers aiming at me.
Here, I'm gonna go get one of them if I can. Lol.
Switch over to
3, 2, 1 on the diva. Discord.
No Discord.
Yeah, and when you're jumping, you're jumping. Please pause. So when you're jumping, if you're gonna jump, so like that jump there, that was supposed to be for kills. You weren't jumping for space. You were jumping for follow up, right? You were trying to kill the Hanzo and Diva. So when you're doing that, let me see. Rewind it here.
Discord.
Thank you for pausing. You're landed right here. When you go for these type of jumps, you should land on top of them for the melee combo, but two, the jump damage as well, for just like a bigger burst of damage. So like if you hold on, let me see if I could go back one. Okay, so seeing that Hanzo was right here. Oh, okay, no, this freaked me out for a second. Sorry. So
Oh
we
my
see.
god, what the heck? Yeah.
I was like, wait. I was like, was there two recons? So seeing that the Hanzo's right here, when you jump, like you know his only escape route's this way, right? So you should have jumped right there, and that would have booped them like this way, and would have provided.
My Diva.
Right. You would have gotten the jump melee combo down, which is an extra like I think it's like 75 whatever damage. It's enough. It's enough damage. Not only that, it would have booped them away from wall climbing a little more, and not only that, you would have been in a position where if you were on this X, he would have to go around you, and as he's going around you, you can lightning him the entire time. But you jumping right here, you could only lightning him for as long as he sticks around. And as Hanzo, he could just jump, and that's it. He's out of your range. So when you, as Monkey, if you're going to go for kills like that, you need to be sure you're jumping in the spot where you could do that damage, but also to where you cut off their escape routes. Always try to cut off their escape routes, because that gives you longer time to do the lightning damage to them as they're moving around you, right? So try
I
to.
didn't even think about that there. Okay.
Mhm.
Got two other snipers. Up.
Monkey. Alright,
Careful, you guys have. Hold on, it's just me.
And it's kind of the same thing with like soldiers, like really quick here. So the same thing with like soldiers. We see as soldiers is like say on this X here. Let's just imagine this dimensions are bigger, and then like you're over here. If you jump right here to like right in front of soldier, what's end up gonna happening? Can't talk. What is going to end up happening is you're going to boop the soldier a tiny bit this way, and then the soldier's just gonna book it, and then that's it. Like he's out of your reach. But if you as Winston, if you see soldier and you jump right here, and he tries to book it, it's gonna boop him back down this way, and then he still has to find a way to go around you, right? So that you just jumping there would instantly kill him. So just a difference of like 5 meters of whatever spot you choose to jump could change the difference, so change the outcome of whether or not you get a kill. So
Let it be easy healing.
Okay, the widow's sitting on the edge of those stairs.
The edge. Okay.
The base of those stairs.
The base. Okay.
Nope, not there.
No, she's back at their spawn.
She's by the boxes.
Yeah.
and I will say, so since you're our main tank and it is for the 6 stack team, I will say,
The ed. Okay.
once you let me see here.
Group.
Jesus,
Up.
there it is. Hold on.
Monkey.
Careful, you guys
So
are
you're
up.
down
Hold on, just be
Genji.
healing. Ron's dead.
Lucky's coming out. Oh wait, I went too far, or I didn't go far back enough. Hold on.
One on the diva. Discord.
No Discord. Hanzo's there too.
You got 2 of their snipers.
Roll fast mode.
Up.
Okay, never mind. I see what happened.
Monkey.
I thought you killed the monkey,
Careful, you guys are up.
but
Hold
y'all
on, just
didn't.
be healing.
Never
Ron's
mind.
dead.
I'm on back.
Group. But let
So but it actually still holds. So after every push, you are always going to be in a competition with the enemy main tank of space control. Excuse me. So given the comp that they have and given the comp that you have, if possible, you want to control the space for them. Hold on, let me see here.
The widow's sitting on
Let's see
the
if we
edge of
turn around. Might be able to see it here. So you know how there's like a doorway down here, and there's that big gate, and then like a tiny doorway on top of this high ground over here, right? Like coming out of spawn, and they usually come out through here. So if possible, that's where you would want to hold them. You want to hold them in these tiny choke points, so that way it makes it hard for them to push out. And if it looks like they're going to push out just fine, whether or not you're going to hold them, then that's when you would want to jump back to like right here. But you just staying here the entirety of the time and not trying to be greedy and see what more space you can or cannot control, you're just going to miss opportunities that way. So I would say in this case, it was fine that you were kind of waiting there, but you weren't necessarily looking to see if they were giving you extra space, if they were allowing you to push up and see if they gave you uncontested grounds. So take that initiative much more. Like try to be greedy in between pushes of like how much space you wish to control. Try to stay away from fighting on payloads. Remember, payload gives the enemy AoE healing, so ideally you want to fight like in this general area and not on the payload, right? So
Nope, not there.
No, she's back at their spawn.
like now that Widow's firing off shots, I was gonna I didn't see that. I was gonna say you could kind of put down a bubble here for a moment because their tanks haven't started pushing yet, and their Widow's just doing a poke battle at this moment. So to help out your DPS, put out a shield, help with the poke battle. Their tanks are nowhere near enough to where they could engage, so you should be fine using a bubble that aggressively, but that's just a small thing. So like even if you used your bubble there,
Monkey.
so even if you used your bubble there, what would end up happening is their line of sight would have been blocked from all of this angle, right? They would have to burst through your bubble in order to shoot anything past this point. Winston would be in the spot to where your team could engage and then be fine with the bubble if you placed it early. Just to give an idea of like worst case scenario, because that what just happened was worst case scenario, that they would engage as soon as you put your bubble down, right? That's like the worst thing that could happen to you, but it still would provide value to your team and might have saved your Widow.
Monkey.
No.
But a bubble there won't probably do much.
Great teeth here.
Monkey. Yeah. Backing it up.
Yeah, your bubble only took 120 damage.
Here.
Yeah.
Oh, 100 and
Backing it up.
is that a 67? Anyways, basically you get the idea. Your bubble didn't get any value just from being there. It maybe took like one Widow shot that was probably on accident. That's about it. Try to place your bubbles way deeper into like the enemy lines, especially when they have Ana. Anytime you see the enemy team has Ana, don't be afraid to bubble in between the Ana's line of sight and her front line tanks. If you could throw a bubble down, that's what is it, 600, right? That's Winston's bubble, so 600 divided by 80. Ana has to do 7.5 shots to get through your bubble before she could get through to her main tanks, right? So you bubbling in between the enemy's lines, that will just ruin the enemy Ana. That's kind of why Ana fell out of meta, was ever since dive meta, Winston's shields just mess up her consistency in healing, and that's generally why Ana fell out of favor. So
I don't know.
Bubbles in the backline like that won't do much.
I was being tranquil.
And I don't mind the peeling oriented playstyle that you have. You've honestly, I wish more tanks had that type of mentality, but I haven't really seen you go for their backline at all, really. And that is something Winston is really good at. Is kind of just diving onto their backline, diving, especially Ana, no mobility, right? Like super easy kill. So your backline, and your backline weakness is Zen, but you have a lot of space for your Zen to work with. Like Zen could be here and shooting all the way over here, right? Like Zen has long line of sights to work with, very very long line of sights. So you could kind of assume that your Zen might be a little safe, and your Moro's definitely gonna be safe. Go for their Ana, and if Lucio tries to peel, go for Lucio, right? You could go for those two targets very easily.
I'm still.
I've
Like
been
for-
scared to play more aggressive. I don't really know why. I don't really have a reason. I just have been.
Yeah, it's just psyching yourself out. It's like in this moment right here, just in this moment right here, like just wait until you're healed, and then again, since you have
I don't know why I didn't go in. Like I feel like I don't know, in solo queue I play like a monkey. Like
Right.
I know, like a pun, but like I play like an ape when I play in solo queue. But
That's
I
good.
guess maybe I care more in this environment that I
Mhm,
take
mhm.
less risks. When
Right.
I probably could.
No, and it's okay to take less risks. It's just you don't want to miss opportunities either, and that's the balance. That's in a nutshell the difference between top tier players and lower tier players. At the highest tier, they understand that perfect balance, or at least to a degree. They understand that balance of aggression and like safe, right? When to play your cards safely and when to aggress, like so much to the point where it's like super risky. You're basically riding that 10 HP line, but you're getting your job done, right? Like pros are really good at identifying those that black and white scenarios. So this is definitely a case where now that you're getting a tiny bit healed, you could go in with a premeditated primal, right? You could go in with the idea of I'm gonna get ready to primal. I'm gonna jump on their back line. If it goes south, I'll primal. So.
I don't know. I was in.
But yeah, going for divas like this is one not gonna do much, mainly because if Diva was healed, actually no, Diva is healed. So one, armor. Your lightning's not gonna do anything against her armor. So you should actually be meleeing Diva at this point, if anything, because of that armor. Melee does better against armor. So this goes true with any tanks. If you notice they have their armor, don't lightning them, melee them. But not only that, he chose to go for a full HP Diva when there were so many other options for you to go for. And Diva's literally probably one of the last ones you want to go for. Because of that,
Still on card.
she could just get away from you.
Turn off the D.Va
Go
way.
down, get on the Hanzo.
Jump up. See, right there, as you were getting low, and as you, all this was happening, pause please. Please pause. Thank you. Fuck. So imagine you had Primal again. You did have your jump cooldown as well. So like, as your shield's about to break, and as you notice you're about to get focused out, jump straight into the air and see if they focus you when you jump straight into the air. If so, that's good for your team. They're not focusing your team. If they don't focus you, like most people do, then you jump back down, you do your melee combo lightning damage, and you just reset aggro. And you could, even though you might be like a little low HP, you could prolong the activation of Primal by losing aggro for that moment, try to regain aggro, and once you do regain aggro, Primal, right? Can you imagine comms, like, let me go back here. So can you imagine comms being, for the enemy team, being something along the lines of Winston's on point, break bubble, Winston's on point, right? And then Winston's low, like focus Winston. And if you had jumped in this moment, even if a little later would have been okay, but if you had jumped in this moment when your shield went down, like straight up into the air, they would have to make the call of keep focusing Winston. If so, you primal, right? And if you jump back down and you notice that they haven't focused you, which means they moved their focus onto something else, then you get to jump on their Hanzo. And if Hanzo turns around and look at you, or if their whole team turns around and look at you, primal. And that would just waste their time paying attention to you, even trying to focus you out to begin with, and having all that going on. And so just try to prolong as much as you can that primal.
Hanzo no E.
Unless you're doing it for kills.
On the monkey, no jump left side.
They're desert from me.
Separate their Ana.
Come on, Diva, get on the Diva.
So again, I like the peeling oriented Winston,
Get on the Hanzo.
but again,
Hanzo no E.
so like you're doing fine there. Jump down. That Ana's shooting at you, so she basically is letting you know where she's at, and she's like right over there, right? So if you would have just jumped over here and booped her all the way this way, and maybe even booped her a second time further back this way, and then jump back to your team, she has to waddle her ass all the way back to this point, whereas you would have gotten straight back into your team, and it's basically like maybe not killing her, but killing her for a couple of seconds, and not having a main healer for a good 3-4 seconds. That's huge, right? So try to think about what you could have like the most value in. Going for these tanks didn't do much, right? And you need to get out. Oh jeez,
Get back to
nice.
Winston. Winston.
Out of prime.
Jesus,
Maybe Diva, finish her.
that's so low.
Oh, I think it's lagging again. No.
Okay.
It's like stuck. I'm stuck at 742 on the. Or wait, no, it updated. Hold on, I'm refreshing.
Okay, it probably just lagged.
Main again.
It's 744, 745.
Yep. Okay, I'm caught up now.
Okay, cool.
Main again.
Oh, this is so rough.
Yeah, it didn't bubble, didn't. You had all your abilities up. So the moment you took that purple, like you should have bubbled. So
Main again. High ground.
Monkey one.
Ana's low.
Monkey.
Now we can't contest that.
I get in my own head so bad. That's so obvious. Like it's like painful to watch after and everything.
yeah, that's what these are for, right? So that way you're aware of it and you change it. That's all it is. It's just my job is actually kind of easy. All I do is see the mistakes, make you aware of it. That's it. So
My God.
and it's not too bad. Like honestly, compared to other like tanks that we've worked with, like you actually have a good fundamental knowledge. It's just execution, right? It's just like knowing those little mechanics. And I could see how you could kind of psych yourself out a little here, but like you're not making any glaring mistakes. Like you're not throwing. It's just you're not taking opportunities that you should, and that's not too bad.
Let's just play close to cart with.
Oh, this is so rough.
What is?
Just thinking about this round.
Oh, we paused forever. Jesus.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember what happened. I think someone AFK.
Appy.
Someone AFK.
No, yeah, it was Appy. Yeah. Okay, there it
Like,
goes.
I don't even know why. I feel like I did nothing on Reinhardt here. To be
Um,
completely honest.
That's probably for a good reason. I know you're all running the Bastion, but generally Winston or mobility tanks do well here because they can contest this higher ground onto here. Remember we just talked about that at the beginning, right? About how important.
I won't lie though. I feel like when they're like, "Oh yeah, let's run this," I'm like, "Okay," and I don't really like say what I'm thinking. I guess maybe I should because I don't want to. I don't know, doubt the call. I don't want to like put doubts in people's heads. Like I'm just like, okay, it could work. Let's run with it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, there was like one game on Legion. This is like completely out of context, but I was like, oh, let's go double off tank into Doomfist. We went Diva Roadhog, and like as soon as we swapped, we got on point, like immediately. And I was like, all right, well maybe I should trust my gut and say something, but I haven't been, and I don't know if I should speak up if I'm not like a main shot caller. Or...
So the way I always like to think about it is, no one's like silencing you, right? So if no one has called anything, no plan of action yet, that's take that opportunity and say, hey, we could run this. Now, if someone already came up with a plan and you really feel like that plan may not be the best plan and that a plan that you have may be better, don't be afraid to pitch it and say, what if we run something like dive? What if we run something like mobile tanks? And if they choose to like, and this is me personally, if they choose to kind of fight on their own idea, like, oh no, like we could do it, it's just fine, then I don't fight them after that, right? Like if they really think that comp works, then by all means, like let's do it, right? So like if I ever have an idea, I usually just pitch it once, and if someone tries to like shoot it down or really thinks that their idea is better, then like by all means I will go with their idea. That may be because I kind of already know what's generally the best plan of action, what are generally the better comps, but I also kind of like to let my team learn But like I think that's the best approach, even if you're not like a coach. Like just pitch an idea. If they really want to run their idea, and after a while, if their ideas are constantly failing, they're gonna want to listen up for other ideas. So.
Right. No, you're right. I guess I should just grow up here. Honestly, I just don't want to like impose. I guess. That's
I mean, you're new. It happens. You're new. No, it's not a big deal. Oh, we made the engagement to jump on you all down here. So when this happens, and especially since we're running dive, so like you saw Hanzo up there. So honestly, Hanzo should be like the person you should really be looking at. I think Hanzo actually kills your Bastion. But like,
he does. I wasn't even paying attention to him. That's the sad part.
Yeah, he was like right above.
Yeah, no, okay, now I see him, but like in game, I was like, oh wow, okay, I didn't even notice until it was too late.
So generally, when you run Bastion strat, you should always look at their team comp and see what can kill my Bastion and what do I need to shield. Do you need to shield Winston?
Of course not.
Do you need to shield Zenyatta?
Kinda. Not really.
Yeah, I like that, kind of. Why kind of?
Yeah, because Zenyatta can be pretty lethal, especially Arch of all people.
It's generally those right clicks, right, that you kind of really need to worry about when you see Zenyatta holding that volley onto your Bastion, getting ready to discord your Bastion. If you see your Bastion discorded, you know that Zenyatta's probably going to frag a little. So kind of, you're right. Like, if Zenyatta's just doing that normal like frag, then you should only need to block the shots that are lethal, right? Like if they get past the Bastion armor, then maybe you should start blocking a little more. If not, you're okay, right? What about Hanzo? Do you block Hanzo?
Absolutely.
Alright, what about D.Va? Do you block D.Va?
I'd rather just swing at her if she came down, to be honest. Make space for my Bastion.
And Widow?
For sure.
Okay. So then what ends up happening was...
I shield nothing!
You shield the D.Va!
Yes, I shield nothing, and yeah.
So, I mean...
So out of it. So
yeah,
bad.
it happens. Yeah, so it's basically a regroup at this point. When you're regrouping like that, if they're being really aggressive, and even though you're low on healing, don't be afraid of either. Yeah, die, but you're kind of with your healers, so I could see why you want to stay alive. But like in this moment, as Winston's jumping in, swing at him. Like occasionally swing at him, and what that does, it like moves them around, right? It kind of like swish-swashes them around to where like they just get like flung around a little by you swinging at them, and that does kind of disorient them. And not only that, like it makes them want to back off a little sooner, and they're also taking damage. But you just holding up shield like that, they're gonna want to aggress more and more because they see that you're not swinging. They see that you're not punishing them. You probably would have died anyways, but maybe you could have killed their Winston as well.
No, you're right. I didn't even think about that. I wasn't thinking a lot in this game, clearly.
Oh, I mean, it's new to this environment. It happens. There's a lot. There's really I try to put a lot on everyone's plate so that way no one thinks that there's any downtime in this game. Like as soon as you have that mentality, the better.
It's like the differences are like stark, though. I didn't realize it was like this different, I guess. Shielding Winston? Why am I shielding Winston? Don't know. I know I don't do that, so...
That's why we talked about it.
Yeah, I figured, I'm like, okay, is he calling to focus our mercy that's going to res? Maybe I'll shield if there's like sniper line of sight. I don't know. So I guess it could go either way.
Yeah, so in my opinion, it's better to just work with what you actually see and what you're actually experiencing in that moment. So seeing that it was just Winston there, probably should have swung a little more. And if you just heard fire, like Widow fire headed your way, then it might have been a good instinct to like shield up and establish where that line of fire is coming in from first, and if you need to continue holding shield, and if not, then put down shield again and continue what you're doing. But there wasn't Widow fire there, so that could have been a better moment to understand that you could just go aggressive. You probably could have called out that Hanzo a little quicker.
I didn't even hear it. I have to turn it up.
Oh, so.
Oh, yeah, he's top left. Okay.
So like.
Did I say something? I don't even remember saying anything.
You said it later. Like you got hit there. And you said it. There.
Oh yeah! Wow, that's so bad.
That's what I'm here for. I was about to say so. So like this is why Reinhardt has a hard time. Pause,
Because he does
please.
nothing.
Okay, yeah.
He does nothing in cart.
Right, like they're gonna contest this space and they're gonna try to like work all around you. They're gonna try to get all the high grounds first, and then yeah, like it's generally not the best. It's still manageable if your team's together, but they're not at this point. So
Yeah, this was rough.
so you're like they're fighting up here, like yeah, and you should be shielding the Bastion, but you're also pushing payload, so your Bastion should kind of be with you. Like it's just a mess right now. You all are split up, and
Oh, that's so sad. It makes me so sad.
yeah.
I think I even said, I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna stay on cart, I guess.
And this is good, and I'm glad you started swinging at the front line. Oh, swing at that who was that? Was that McCree? Oh,
Hanzo.
yeah, you missed that swing onto Hanzo. If you would have swung onto Hanzo, look at his HP. If you would have just swung on that Hanzo, he was a quarter. He was a quarter. No, what?
Quarter. Oh
Look,
my
look, look.
god.
Look. See,
That's so
pause,
sad.
please. Yep. Anyways, he got healed, but he was a quarter. So if you would have swung onto the Hanzo, yeah, that would have been a kill.
Wow. Okay.
And it probably would have gave you ultimate.
Hey. No, I'm just kidding.
But you probably get that next round. You probably get it with your next fire strike. So it's not. It actually isn't. That's actually a very super petty. Not even.
I'm only kidding.
I actually wouldn't worry about that one. So, see, actually you got it on just passive alone. So I forget how quick Reinhardt's passive ult charges.
Oh my god, we just stand here and do nothing, man.
Oh yeah, I remember that. But that's
Yeah, dude, this...
so, and that's partially your shot caller, partially you though.
Yeah, Widow has walls. Widow has walls.
I don't
So
know why we stayed on double shield tank. Why are we still doing this?
yeah.
We don't have Bastion anymore. I don't
So
know.
like it's like at this moment I would have started pushing out, like just knowing that this is just the best spot. Like they already set up, so they're gonna get ready to start firing down this way. And knowing that, I would already start like pushing out, or at least stop where you are right now and tell your team, hey, push out, push out, push out, push out. So that way you could provide that shield cover. Either way, either you need to get moving so that way your team follows you because they're gonna follow your main tank, or you as the main tank, you gotta let your team know push out, and so that way they know you're providing a cover for them to push out. But because I don't hear you saying push out, and because I don't see you moving or pushing out too quickly, you're kind of setting this up for your team as well. Okay, there was a call like to push, and then you started pushing as well, so that's good, but it may have been too late.
Push through.
Oh, I feel bad because I'm like, I don't want to like impose a lot of the time.
No, don't be afraid to. Everyone's here to learn, so like if you feel like you have good ideas and good playstyles, like help it out. And you're main tank too. So like something I'm telling Phasma, like even though she's not a shot caller either, she's your mercy. And something I'm telling her is, even though she's not a shot caller, she has the eyes to see what is going on. She has the eyes to see who's separated. She has the eyes to see a lot of things.
That's
And
true,
and even
right.
even though she's not a shot caller, I still expect her to call out those type of things. Call out what flankers are going. Call out if your team's separated. Yeah, she's not the shot caller, but she still should be in charge of, like, if the team is separated, to reunite the team and get them back on the same page. Because ideally that would be the shot caller's job, but your shot caller is Hero, and he's kind of it's Hero, and he's your off tank. So his type of shot calls are going to be the aggressive kind. So I tell Phasma, so you gotta help Hero out because he doesn't have sight of everything. So you're gonna have to still act like a shot caller, like a pseudo shot caller, and just put leashes on everyone and kind of control that. But
Yeah,
you
that's awesome.
and you as a main tank, even though you're not a shot caller, the thing you get to control intrinsically is the pace of a push and the aggression of a push, the aggression of your front line, how much space you're going to give your team. And that is, again, since even though you're not the shot caller, you could still call those things. Rotations, macro positioning, meaning the positioning of your 6 or your 5 allies, is still in your domain. Even though that is also the shot caller's domain, it is still your domain to control the movements of your whole team. So yeah, Hero should have called that out quicker to keep moving out, but then again, you should have chose that pacing a little sooner too. The less your shot caller has to micromanage, the more they get to focus on what is actually going on in the game, right? That's kind of what I tell my team. Like, even though I play for the other team, I micromanage a little bit, and I tell them, like, if you could get it to where I don't have to micromanage you, then I could focus more on like what is going on in the game and focus more on like what we need to do. But like sometimes I'm having to tell our DPS, hey, you need to flank right now. We need to flankers right now. Hey, front line, you need to be pushing right now. You need to be pushing right now. Hero's not that type of caller, so he's not going to tell you those things. So you got to start taking initiative on those, on like the paces of a push. And
Okay.
to give you a general rule of thumb, push fast, push quickly. Like, I don't care if it's a complicated rotation. I don't care if you're going like all throughout this map. You want to get to the high ground. You have to make all these like crazy obstacles just to get there. As long as you don't stop on the way over there, that is good. If you do this to where you push into here, you wait a little while here. Okay, let's push. Push, wait up here a little while. Okay, wait. Push. That is bad. That is what you shouldn't do. Those are bad pushes. But if you're just pushing, like even if it's just like pushing through here, let's push through here, let's just go. Like, it should be very fluid, very quick, very like just go, holding W until you get to a point where holding W is maybe no longer safe. It's gonna get really risky, really close. Then maybe you could slow down a little. But for the most part, a good general rule of thumb is push fast, push confidently. So. Like, if let me take this back a tiny bit. Like, if you would have had that mentality here, and if the team understands this is your play style, I will admit it might take a little while for your team to kind of like follow up with you. But if you have that mentality of, hey, we're just gonna go in, we're gonna go in this way, we're gonna go straight to point, yada yada. Can you imagine, like? Okay, I know they said hold down, slow down here, but then can you imagine just like keep going, like just shield hopping and just keep running this way? You would have been out right about now. You probably would have been over here. You probably would have been like on this side. You probably would have been like kind of headed towards payload. But because it took you so long, only now you're going to stairs. Now you're rotating. So like it's a slow rotation, and that's what I'm talking about. You control that pace as the main tank. Yeah, Hero's the caller, but try to take that initiative for him so that way he doesn't have to call it. Good job on that Widow. Fire strike it! Fire strike! Ah, so close. Could have fire strike that sooner.
Frozen.
Okay, I'll go back.
Refresh.
Okay. Should be at 1749.
Yep. Alright, we're
Okay,
good.
cool. So like that you go for Mercy here. When you swing at heroes,
Widow up top.
please pause. Oh my god, hold on. I'm trying to make it pause.
Widow up top.
Jesus, that's so hard. It does. So when you swing at targets, more often than not, so like when you, especially your first swings is gonna knock them a little this way. So Mercy was kind of in the center. Like, let's just say she was roughly in this center part of your screen, but because you swung at her, she's gonna end up on this part of the screen. I think she was like right here when you swung at her, which means she ends up right here. So once you are really familiar with that mechanic of the game, you can land fire strikes so easily well. So anytime you swing a target, after you swing, all you gotta do is flick up to about roughly this area and fire strike. Like you could do that instantaneously, like swing, flick, fire strike. And that will pretty regularly land. So if you have done that mechanic here, you could have killed that Mercy. Mercy would have definitely died. But because you wait a little while, then it chalks up to aim. Like, the longer you wait for fire strike, the longer it chalks up to aim. And at this point, you barely miss. So almost killed the Mercy, almost turned the whole fight. So if you notice, like, very, very small things are preventing you from really carrying these games, which is a very good sign.
Yeah, can we get a Genji
What do you mean a very good sign? That makes me sad, dude.
Well, think about it this way. Think about it this way. So let's take for example a tracer player. A tracer player has, let's say, 25% weapon accuracy. Pretty shitty. So with this 25% weapon accuracy, they land in, say, silver, right? So they're in silver with 25%. Say they work on their accuracy and they get to 29% weapon accuracy, and maybe it presses them to gold, right? And then they're in gold now. So then they bump up their accuracy. So this from here to here was a bump up of plus 4%, right? Let's just say it took 4%, and this is hypothetical, right? So let's just say it took 4% weapon accuracy increase in order for that tracer to get into gold. Just mechanics alone. And then, so say they get to 30%, nothing changes. 31%, nothing changes. 32%, nothing changes. But let's just say they get to 33%, and then they manage to go from gold to very, very high plat, just by having that little threshold broken, right? Now that they're at 33%, oh, they could do plat now, and even though they were at 32% before, that wasn't enough for them to carry the game, right? They were just that 1% off to break that tiny threshold to where it actually mattered. Maybe from 32% to 33%, that person got like 1 or 2, maybe 3 more extra final blows in the game. And because of those tiny bit of extra final blows, they were able to just change the outcome of that whole game and get them into plat. And then now that they're in plat, then now let's just say they're trying to go into GM. They're trying to just skyrocket into GM, which means they need basically like a 40% weapon accuracy. And as they try to climb, they could get 33% accuracy, they get 34% accuracy, 35% accuracy, 36% accuracy, and nothing happened. But maybe from 36 to 37% weapon accuracy, boom, like that is exactly what they needed for their tracer play, and that was exactly the number they needed for them for all of their game decisions to connect really well, and then that was enough for them to skyrocket into like Masters, into GM. Like that is how this game actually works. This game works off small triggering points, small little moments that you could have impacted, and if you did impact those small moments, the other moments wouldn't have happened. And if those other moments would have happened, that's why I love this game. It's extremely dynamic, it's extremely domino effect. Like there's so much that goes into like that's the difference between Masters, Diamond and Masters, and GM's top 500s. Like the biggest difference, honestly, from Diamonds Plus, it's all roughly the same players. They all are players that roughly know what are good in this game, what are bad in this game. I'm not talking about the bad diamonds that are like really bad, like the ones that shouldn't be there. But I'm talking about the diamonds that should be there. And then from there on plus, everyone has the same understanding of the game. It's just who is really good at not making those very, very tiny mistakes. And that is honestly what you're going to find to be very different. Of course, there are some big differences in playstyle. I'm not arguing against that. I'm talking more just like independent game decisions, small things that matter. If you look at GMs and top 500s, they don't let a single opportunity by them. And that's their version of their mistakes. Like when I do VODs for Night Sky or Sun, if it's completely different, and honestly, like I have to get used to understanding that as well. But it's completely different because for them, it's not a matter of like certain game decisions or certain mechanics. For them, it's just small things that they didn't really pay attention to, that they just kind of let by, and because of the small things that they let by, they lost that push. And that's honestly what it eventually boils down to. So that's why I'm saying it's a good thing that it's only small things that are preventing your play from connecting. Right now, I would say you have like good brief moments, and then there's like a weird wonky moment. Then there's good brief moments, weird wonky moments, good brief moments, and like weird wonky moments. And even within these good moments, there are certain things that you're barely missing from them for it to connect all the way into one great long streak of play, right? One great long performance, one great push. So just fixing these small little mistakes is going to help out the general flow of your play. And if it helps out the general flow of your play, you could probably make less mistakes, capitalize on more opportunities, and do much more for your team. So that's what I mean by it's a good and bad thing. Bad that you're messing these things up, good that you're not making any other big mistakes, and it's only these small things that you're messing up. Which means once you fix these small things, you're gonna skyrocket as a player. You're gonna skyrocket like a SR like crazy. You're basically at this. You're basically at the point where the tracer's at the 32% and they just need that 33% to get into like pop into masters, right? That's basically where you're at for the equivalent of Reinhardt. Right, of course, tanks don't have accuracy as that variable to worry about. For tanks, it's more about game decision. It's more about playstyles. But you're not too far off from shining like crazy. Now go top right again. Get separated. So once you see Hanzo ult there, you should know, okay, my team is separated. I can't push right now. Hero makes some mistakes and pushes as well, so that's kind of why you end up losing that one.
You guys keep fighting. I'm pushing payload.
We walk up a lot together, and a lot of games just die, and I'm like, maybe
Yeah.
we're stupid.
I mean, it's just
Us two.
yeah, it's just a matter of knowing where your team's at and if your team is in the right position for it.
And then we got the C9.
Yeah, we were pretty mad ourselves. So yeah, C9's pretty hilarious.
The comms were insane in this game. I remember that. People just like screaming.
So I probably would advise to have switched to Winston at this point, but it's fine that you were on Reinhardt.
I like felt it in my fucking bones. So I was like, after I did this, like, what am I doing?
But I
And it
mean,
was already like too late to swap.
yeah, no, it happens. Yeah. And it's still workable, right? But you should let your team know, hey, I'm Reinhardt. You're not gonna have a lot of follow up. But it's still your team's fault. I mean, it's equally your team's fault for going in, and they have tab too, right? They could see that they don't have Winston, and so they should probably play with payload. So partially your team's fault, partially your fault.
That's so rough.
Owie, owie, owie. That's electrical therapy.
Okay. So again, they have double snipers. So because they have double snipers,
And I still don't swap, I'm pretty sure.
well, not only that, like you should know that. So normally I would have liked this playstyle of like swinging onto this Winston, trying to kill them a lot, but that's only if they're running, say, something like Tracer and Genji, because your shield doesn't do jack shit against that comp, right? But your shield in a comp like this, you could actually block at this moment about a 900 damage for your team. Pause, please. Thank you. So if you would have stayed kind of on payload and hold the shield up, you would have prevented that death from happening. Rakan getting that headshot onto your Zen. When they're running double snipers, you need to be much more of a defensive Reinhardt. Again, always look at the enemy comp, and that usually lets you know how you should position, how you should play. And seeing that they have double snipers and Yada, that's a lot of poke, which means their only front line, the only people that are going to get up in your team's face are the front line. So if you shield these targets effectively, your team should be able to destroy the enemy front line like nothing, and they would be basically voided out from the fight by you having your shield up. Even if it goes all the way down to 0, at least you block like 1,000 damage worth of 1,000. Yeah, you get the point. Block 1,000 damage. So instead, yeah, you're like, I understand trying to peel for your team, but what I'm saying is, like, it's always going to be worth it to shield against snipers than it is to like peel for your team if it's just 2 tanks going in. If it's just 2 tanks going in, your team should be around to kill them. If your team's not around to kill them, then the fight's lost anyway. And I think that's kind of what happened here. But even then, try your best to develop that habit of your shield management should be based on the enemy DPS and the enemy's poke.
Actually at 1 HP.
On the top.
Is that? Mercy got him, Mercy got him.
Yeah, Mercy's pocketing it.
Widow's top, but I gotta wait on.
I have both.
Okay, I'm waiting for dash. Okay, fine, here, let's snipe Widow together.
Widow's pocketing
3-1 on Widow.
Yeah, let's go,
4
let's go.
dragons. Falcon now.
Hanzo Discord, we're super.
I remember
was-
thinking of him, like, he kites me so well. You're like,
Broke your ankles.
yeah, dude, that was something. actually insane.
Soon. Give me 1 second, Jinx. I'll
Okay.
probably be done. Yeah, now I'm talking to you. I'll probably be done. It looks like we only have like 4 minutes. Okay, yeah, like 10 minutes.
I'll finish with dinner that time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so let me rewind it a little. Let me reset what we're looking at here.
Ducking now.
Yeah, actually, that was actually a pretty good juke, though.
Yeah, that was so clean. I remember thinking, I'm like, wow, I'm impressed.
Mhm.
Widow's down.
Should I was gonna say you should probably shatter that Zen.
We got the Zen.
Let me see again. I don't remember.
He gets rezzed right there.
Oh,
And then-
I didn't even see that. I didn't even pay attention to that. Okay.
Oh, okay. Then yeah, it was just an awareness, situation awareness. So like I only noticed it because I saw Mercy rezzing, and I was like, who could kill the Mercy? And I was like, well, no one could follow up on the Mercy. So that's why I was just kind of looking there. But then when I saw the Zen, I would have shattered the Zen.
Receive us on first.
Widow's one. Widow's down.
Hey, you're right. Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, and that
I see it
happens.
now, obviously.
Yeah. Hindsight's 20/20, right?
Yeah.
And then turn around, like now that trance is about to be over, like start get ready to.
Back here.
Wait, was that your Mercy? Hold on.
Winston's chasing me. Winston's chasing me.
I'm so confused now. Okay.
Wait. Is that your Mercy that?
Widow's down. Zen on card.
Wait.
No. Never mind.
Okay, yeah. I was gonna say, wait. After you said that.
I was just confused with the red and the blue.
Trans you.
Yeah, no, that's what threw me off because I saw the blue. I saw the blue trance and I was like, wait a second. I'm like,
Yeah,
what?
it's like the same thing over there. Where did the other one go?
He went back to his team. I was gonna say because I was gonna say the moment when Zenyatta's about to end his trance, you should look to shatter. You should always look to shatter. Like shatter 2 or 3 targets. They will secure the kills. I mean, your Genji is blading right now, and you just blew trance on your side, so maybe not after that. Cause that just threw me for a loop. I'm sorry. So that was just
No, it's okay.
yeah. So like the right there. Please
Yeah.
pause. Please
Yeah, I
pause.
see. I see
Pause.
exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, right here, right? Because that's Zenyatta went back over here, and not only that, you would have been able to probably shatter a good amounts of them. Mainly because Double didn't get the crazy Genji blade like I thought he was going to get, and that's a good time to hold it. Like hold it if your team pops ultimates. Okay, wait out shatter. You don't need to use shatter if your team's using ultimates. See if your team could win with those ultimates, and if it looks like they couldn't, which you didn't see the kill feed go crazy with Genji, so that should tell you, okay, my team didn't secure the kills, then you're good to shatter, right? You're good to just shatter anything, 2 targets, really. So shattering those targets over there would have been good.
Oh my god, fucking trance, what is this?
I think, if I remember correctly here, I don't know if it's because I tunnel like hard and like the calls people make that I don't look for my own place, I guess.
And
I'm
it's
getting knocked to that charge.
no, yeah, and that's really it. Like, if we wanted to get into the specifics as to why you're making the mistakes, that it is always going to be off, like very general. Okay, let me start from the beginning. Any mistake that's ever made in this game, given the environment that people are actually trying, any mistake that's ever made is due to not a complete calculation of what is going on. So to make that a little more clear, so you could see what's in front of you and say variable A is going on when variable B is going on, so that's going to produce this environment of option C, whatever, right? And you make that calculation. And that's super vague, right? That's like whatever it is you may be doing. And if you missed one variable, if you missed variable D or what, no matter how small the variable, your calculation, your math is going to be off, right? Like whatever you thought was going to happen didn't happen because you missed 1 or 2 pieces of information. So any mistake that's made in the game is usually due to calculations that you probably thought were right, but because you didn't see everything that was going on, your calculation is going to be a little off. So that is always something to work on, which is just situational awareness, right? If you could accurately calculate everything that's going on in the game, if you could assess majority of the variables that are going on, then your math, your prediction, what you think will be the outcome of that fight will be much more accurate, right? So you as a player who's looking to improve, understand that all your improvements are basically going to be things that you simply aren't aware of. And my job is to make you aware of these things, so that way when you go into game, you have more things to calculate, and now that you have more things to calculate, more things to think about, more things to take into consideration, your decision and the very end of it is going to be better now, because you're taking more things into account. And that's simply my job, is just to make you a little more aware of what is going on
Insane.
around the game.
What the hell? No,
Is
you've been blowing my mind like all night. It's working. It's working.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad you're listening and hearing me out. So if you have questions, let me know. Let's see how the rest of this goes. Right. and I guess to add on to that, what I just said, and that's the difference between high SR players and low SR players. So players who join the game and they're instantly GM's top 500, it's not because they were naturally talented or anything like that, right? It's because they've previously have had ingrained habits from other games, whether shooters, whether strategy games, League of Legends. They've had so many amount of ingrained habits that coming into this game, they already have so many things on a habitual level. I don't know what that was, but there's having so many things on a habitual level that they only need to learn basically the game mechanics, like the specifically Overwatch stuff, and then once they have that integrated, they could just instantly pop into high GM. But players who aren't instantly in high GM, basically all of us, we had to develop habits slowly and slowly. So we develop one layer of habit, then we work on the next layer of habit, then we work on the next layer of habit, and then the next layer, until the point where we have about the same layers of habits as a GM player. And then from there, we try to out-develop their habits, and then we try to get more habits than that GM player. And that's how anyone is better at anyone in this game. No one is just born into existence and they have this much talent and all they need to do is this much. Like, no one is like that. I guarantee that. Maybe someone's born like right here above someone else that's like right here. But even then, that only is going to affect the beginning parts of their training. But if you have a group of people training constantly, very intensely for 500 hours, they're all going to end up roughly around it right here, right? They're all going to be like that high level. Thousands of hours of play, they're all going to be within the same range, as long as they work hard and as long as they had the same quality of practice, right? And that's kind of the point of metamakers, is we understand that we have a long way to go before we have as many habits as those GM players. But that's why we're here. We're here to develop those habits. We're here to make sure we have all this stuff on a very second nature level, and eventually we'll get there. It may seem tough at first, but eventually we'll get there. And then once you have them all to where you're able to analyze the whole fight like super easily, a majority of the fight super easily, and you're able to calculate everything that's going on, then all of a sudden it only requires a little bit of effort to calculate that extra set of variables. And once you have that in habit, then it's only a little effort to calculate the extra set of variables. And that's how you work towards improve, and that's how you get better as like a main tank, especially. It's just working on those habits. So.
Alright. After this hammer, let's go Winston. He's stronger on the second point here.
I just kind of use it.
Yeah.
Like, one thing that like threw me for a loop really hard. I was like climbing steadily, for sure, and then like they had the Reinhardt changes. Like I started getting tilted off them. Like I couldn't do like my resets. I can do my brain games. I can't shatter through shield anymore with my hammer. Like it. So this was like, I'm honestly like at my low right. Like I don't really, I haven't really known like where to go from here. I kind of felt I came to a roadblock on Reinhardt. Like there was one point where I was 66 and 33 on Reinhardt. I had a 67% win rate. I felt like unstoppable, and now I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know if it's like my mental or I'm playing different.
There was an actual meta shift that all the frontline people who picked up on it, or at least caught glimpse of how it changed, they ran with it, and they were the ones that were able to not get affected by the changes. And majority of us, and I was actually included, and I had to kind of really struggle as to like how the meta changed and keep up with it. But what ended up happening was Reinhardt went from this very team-oriented type hero where you should kind of shield your team, just provide a stable shield for your team, and that's it, and just win the poke battle. It changed from that to let me explain this. I'm glad you said that because this is very important to know. So before, just don't ignore what's on the background here. So before, you would have your front line here, and you have the enemy's front line here. Let's just say it's an open map, no cover nor anything, right? So the point of Reinhardt back then was make sure you have good shield management to the point where your shield will outlast the enemy shield, and once once the enemy shield goes down, your team, you know, pokes in and then, you know, wins the fight generally. So Reinhardt's back then were much more about shield management, much more about, you know, ult economy, because then once you had ultimates, then you wanted to aggress and try to break shields and then go for the shield combo, yada yada. It was a different style of Reinhardt play. And then once the meta changes went through with Brigitte, Hanzo, Zarya, it changed really drastically. So instead of Reinhardt's trying to keep their distances and have good shield management and just basically see whichever Reinhardt keeps up shield longer, it turned into that to you want your front line to clash with their front line, and once that happens, you as Reinhardt, you need to swing and have shield management. So it's still like the old Reinhardt with shield management, but you're incorporating swings a lot more. Why are you incorporating swings a lot more? Because you want to get ultimate faster. Why do you want to get ultimate faster? Because you want to get the first ult onto the Reinhardt, onto the enemy Reinhardt. Once you get the first ult onto
I don't know what happened.
Meta changed, Brigitte came in, made this harder to do, but also made more emphasis on this as well. So what ended up happening, a lot of Reinhardt players ended up backing off because of Brigitte, and that ended up being worse. Because that's the instinctual thing to do, right? Stay away from the danger. But that ended up, some Reinhardts ended up being more aggressive, and with that, the Brigitte's that ended up being more aggressive with them ended up paying off, and so Reinhardt's were all of a sudden being rewarded for playing stupid, essentially. Like now, I will say you kind of need to play Reinhardt almost a little stupid, where that's what I'm saying, like go aggressive, like go fast, go like push hard, because normally that wasn't the mentality. Normally the mentality was push methodically, push slowly, make sure you're like pushing safely. That is no longer the case with the meta. The meta now,
So sad.
and that's probably what it was. So now the meta is push aggressively, push fast, and make sure you as a front line, you go quickly onto their front line ASAP, and like try to give their front line a hard hell of a time. So that's sorry for the dog.
That's okay. I have 3 dogs right around me right now, so I know the struggle.
She has the most annoying toy with her, but so like right now, what you're doing is going onto that Winston, which is good. Like that's the playstyle you need, and then shielding, and then right there, that's where you kind of messed up. You shielded.
It's lagging. Hold on.
Oh, my bad.
No, it's okay. I'm reloading. Hold on. Let's see.
You're swinging onto
I
a
guess
Winston.
If you pause it for like a little extended period of time, it does that.
I think so.
Okay, now it's working.
Okay, cool. So like we're swinging onto the Winston right now, which is good. And right here, you shielded, and then you like kind of pause a little bit. I would have probably started pushing up, mainly because you don't want to be. So right now, the high ground is right above this little zone I just drew, right? Like there's a bridge right above this little zone. So you don't want to stand right here, because enemies that are standing on that bridge right now could focus you. And you don't want to really push onto here, because enemies that are standing on the bridge could focus you. So you generally want to stand right here, so that way whatever's on top can't focus you, and you get to push payload all throughout this process. So that's one thing. So you kind of hold back a little. You kind of like keep staying in this danger zone, where you have to worry about everything that's going on. Nice shatter. So just keep in mind, like, where's the safe areas. They might not be so intuitive all the time, but just try to think about it. Good shatter here. I'm glad you weren't holding on to it anymore, so especially because it's overtime. Don't be afraid to swing at that Widow.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell. I think I was like, why is she here? Like that was more of like a confused moment there.
I would, since you're Reinhardt and you're not Winston, I would have asked someone to focus on the top left high ground while you focus on this right high ground, or right doorway and have your Zenyatta and your Mercy kind of like push.
I should have swapped here, sure, to be
So,
honest.
but like standing right here in the center of both
Doesn't
the left
do
and
anything.
yeah, you're not doing much. So
That's my specialties.
see, you could have stopped that Hanzo from contesting, but still works
I
out.
don't know why I went with them here. And then they're like, let's split. I'm like, oh wait, why am I here? Like, okay. Well, alright. I'm Reinhardt and I'm over here.
Don't worry, you have 3 blinks. Can you imagine Reinhardt with blinks?
Oh my
Jesus.
God. No,
Blink.
I want him with a jetpack, please.
Blink shatter. Jeez. Get that fire strike. Oh, I was like, when you see Mercies are doing that, when they're just gliding, don't be afraid to fire strike them. Make
When
them.
I'm shielding like this, I'm autopiloting. This is me autopiloting right now, or I'm listening to what everyone's saying. That I know I have a problem with, where I autopilot and I don't actively think about what to do next, or I'm listening.
Yeah. That's good that you're aware of that. That means you're in the process of fixing it, which is good. Now that you know Widow's dead, your shield management is now based on Hanzo, basically Hanzo alone. So you should take this opportunity to start not shielding as much as you need to, and only shield if Hanzo's looking at your team's direction and they're focusing your team, right?
Okay.
Because you want to be ready for. Pause, please. Pause. Thank you. You want to be ready for when the payloads.
That's a good shot.
Right? You can see everything. You want to, like, when the payload's roughly around right here, Widow's going to respawn, and you're going to want to have full shields by this point. Like, once it's under this bridge, you're probably going to need full shields pretty bad. So we'll see how this fight goes on.
On Mercy, I'm on Mercy.
What's the moment?
Okay, your shields aren't. So the D.Va created space for you, so you have enough shields, although the D.Va bomb's going to ruin that. So now you're really screwed. So you swing mode, pin that. That was a good pin only because there was 2 targets in line of you.
Blind shield, go blind shield.
Hold on, let me show you here.
Mercy.
So right there, right after res, I would have probably gone for a pin this way. It's a very short one. It's a very short pin. You would end up on this little pipes right there, and
Sure, okay.
you wouldn't be punished. Short pins are really good to go for. Not only that, he just got res, and you kind of, I'm sure you're familiar, when you get res, you only have your cameras locked, so you don't really get to see what's around you. Your camera's locked for a little while, so you setting up for a pin, he might not react quick enough. Not only that, if you would have set up for that pin, if you would have missed the Winston, you would have gone, oh, that's your D.Va behind. Never mind. I was gonna say it was a good pin because even if you would have missed the Winston or Winston would have jumped out, you would have gotten the D.Va. I didn't realize that was your D.Va. So,
okay. No, that's okay.
but still, try to go for pins on reses because of the camera lock. It tends to be kind of good. Sometimes, so long as it doesn't kill you, go ahead and do it. Good job trying to just swing on that monkey for free damage, free life.
Mercy's right here.
Easy. Get this at their bubble, shatter. At their bubble, shatter.
Pause.
Okay.
Okay, I'm caught up now.
Okay. So like,
This is me looking for a shatter.
I-
When I'm like this, shields up, I'm looking around. This is me looking for a shatter for sure. Like if I'm not doing anything.
this is the only thing that's blocking your shatter, right?
Exactly.
So you should be pushing up to right here, wait until the shield bubble goes down, then shatter, right?
But I'm pretty sure I remember we don't have our main heals, and then our Genji died, so this is why I back up here.
Mm-hmm.
Hanzo's one.
I haven't heard the backup call yet, which is why I was saying that's probably what you should have done. But no, I think the right call was to back up in this moment and not to shatter. Yeah.
It could have been winnable, actually. We have hero, or not hero, excuse me. I don't remember who the hell that is.
Yeah, you definitely have not. Hold on.
Tracer, we have Zen there. It could have been winnable, actually. Hanzo's so low. He calls it out. Hanzo's one. That could have been winnable.
Oof.
Okay.
Shatter. 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 Shatter.
Oh,
Shatter. 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 Shatter.
I don't
Shatter.
I don't use it.
Shatter. Oh my gosh!
I never use it.
Oh.
Hanzo was up.
Yeah.
Like, okay, my life this season has been me. I'm gonna go for the shatter, and I die in the animation. So now I've been like really like hesitant about it.
Only reason because Bubble went down and they have absolutely
you're right.
nothing to block it, right?
I'll
So
just
then
go for the balls deep shatters from now on. I need to stop playing like a bitch. Like so many people have been telling me that, but I don't know why.
I mean, you're again, you're from the old. You played old Reinhardt, which means you had to be very cautious. You had to save your shatters. You couldn't afford to whiff shatters back then. You couldn't afford to have bad shield management back then. You couldn't afford many things back then. But now that the meta's changed, it's completely different for Reinhardt's. And I personally hated the meta shift because I used to play tank a little bit back in the old meta, and I enjoyed tanks in that meta. I think they were much more methodical. I think they were much more.
That's why I liked it. It was like brain power almost.
Right, and then it's still kind of brain power, but now there's a balance of brawn in there. There's a balance of of aggression now, which is at first I was just like, oh, I hate it. Like it's just aggressive. You just hold W mouse 1, Ryan. But after a while, I understood that there were some nuances with being aggressive Ryans. Like there was good aggressive Ryans, there were bad aggressive Ryans.
They made it harder though. After the animation cancel changes, you can't cancel a lot of your animations with your shield anymore.
Right.
So it's rough. It's like, oh my god, it's so frustrating.
Yeah, it is, and so that's why you have to be much more bold. I would prefer you to be wasting shatters than to be holding on to shatters. Put it that way.
Next time I whiff for shatter, I'm gonna be like, yo, Cup told me to do it.
I mean, as long as you let them know, it's for learning purposes. Throw to learn is what I call it. But yeah, he could have shattered any in those moments.
Yeah, trust me, I went in on myself after that. Like, I'm like, what am I doing? I'm
See,
just standing
because
here.
he just had bubble up at this moment now, so.
Yeah, and I knew it was down. Like, I make mental note of cooldowns. Like, obviously, I play Reinhardt, but like.
But yeah, so I think that is actually what's wrong. You're still kind of in somewhat of the old playstyle, and honestly, when it comes to meta changes, that is the biggest toughest thing about meta changes is letting go of the old habits and learning what are the new habits. And
playing like an ape.
Yeah, right, exactly. So I would definitely say as Reinhardt, try to, if you ask yourself this one question, which is, am I gaining as much value as I can? That will probably solidify everything you need to know about Reinhardt. So basically, if you're ever at a point where you could be doing something that you could provide more value to your team, then you should be doing that instead, essentially. But yeah, so for your Winston, work on your Winston mechanics, work on your jump mechanics, work on understanding how to cut off like escape routes, like basically jumping accuracy, just jumping in general, jump mechanics, jumping is honestly the biggest.
I'm pretty bad at it.
Yeah,
I don't have a lot of play time on Winston, so I don't know like how it feels yet.
Yeah,
I will admit.
Yeah, and he's not meta at the moment, like hard meta, so it's not like too big of an issue, but it is something to work on. And as Reinhardt, honestly, is just, I think you said it yourself, just letting go of those old habits, letting go of those more passive Ryan playstyle, just being a little more aware of what is going on, and just being much more aggressive, much more quick with your pushes. If you could do those things, if you could be more aggressive, a little quicker with your pushes, and more confident with your engagements as Reinhardt, again, I think that's exactly what you need to start popping off like crazy. Because it seems like you have the right idea of like being weary of things that could really fuck you up, which is very good. A lot of people don't have that. So it's just a matter of not letting those things dictate your play entirely, not letting those things completely limit your aggression, and just take some risks. Take some risks where you need to. Some risks you're going to learn aren't worth taking. That's going to be the hard learning curve. Other risks you're going to realize, hey, people don't really punish so much, so you get to do those a much more. So aggression with Ryan and mechanics with Winston, roughly, in a nutshell. Okay. And I'll upload the VOD so that way you could look back on it and see what we talked about and see what else you could work on. So I'll have it uploaded.
Great.
Any questions for me?
Honestly, no. I mean, I can only say like that was great. I was looking forward to this a lot because I've been, like I said, just like in a bad headspace as far as like my Reinhardt. And for the most part, of course, like I knew like a lot of what I needed to do, but you opened my eyes even more, and then like just made me realize like what I needed to change specifically.
That's what
So
I'm
it made
here
me feel
for.
Really good.
Yeah, if you ever have any questions, if there was ever any pushes that you're like unsure of how you should have handled it, a game you're unsure how you should have handled it, make sure you record it, send it to me, and then we could talk about it, and we could address those issues. So.